Use the Force, Luke. Yeah. You just caught me using the Force. Now I'm gonna eat the Force. The Force makes my teeth hurt. Oh. Hey guys, Cam here from PhoneDog.com and welcome to another episode of Fetch, the weekly show where we round up everything that's been going on around the PhoneDog Media network in a slightly less than serious and almost certainly sarcastic tone. In case you missed it earlier this week, Sprint gave up on its idea of acquiring T-Mobile, or at least its parent company decided not to acquire T-Mobile and to merge Sprint and T-Mobile together. Now this was widely reported across the web and it came from a very reputable source. But because it was never officially announced and it was always just rumours, then none of the companies have really said anything specific about it. But what we will say is that Sprint's CEO was quickly shown the door the day after it was announced that this was happening. Now the idea, like I've already mentioned, was that Sprint and T-Mobile would merge, and that would of course mean that the number 3 and number 4 carriers in the States would become just one big carrier capable of competing with the likes of AT&T and Verizon. But the FCC and Department of Justice were never really keen on this going ahead. And so after they got all the paperwork done and the deal had all been sort of finalised and they knew exactly what they were going to be agreeing to, then they started working on what they would argue in front of the regulatory bodies and to tell them why this is a good idea. But they gave up because they couldn't come up with an argument strong enough. And so Sprint backed out. And the next day, Dan Hesse was shown the door and they appointed the new CEO, Marcelo Claure. Claire. He's going to have to tell me how to pronounce his name, but he will be starting his new position on August the 11th, next Monday. One really big piece of news, or at least a leak and rumour that came up this week, was again to do with the upcoming iPhone 6. Now, over the past few years, Apple's been rumoured to be working with Liquidmetal. It's a specialist company that's designed and made its own really cool metal alloy. Now, Liquidmetal isn't mercury. As you all know, anyone who's done science to an acceptable level at school will know that mercury turns into a liquid at room temperature. So of course, there's not going to be any mercury in an iPhone. Unless you want to be stuck in a fridge all day, or freezer. And mercury's a little bit poisonous too, so they probably wouldn't get away with putting any of that into an iPhone. But this liquid metal alloy is incredible. For the nerds out there, it's made up of a combination of zirconium, titanium, nickel, copper, and beryllium. And when you look at it under a microscope and you look at its atomic structure, it looks much more like glass than it does like metal, because of the way the atoms are structured and the way they line up. And because of this property, what that means is that they can actually mold it and melt it and press it into shapes and actually create really cool, small, really detailed shapes that you can't do with any other kind of metal. And once it's been solidified and it's in its final shape, it's strong, it's stronger than titanium, it's really light, it's ridiculously long lasting, it doesn't rust, it doesn't scratch. It's an incredible metal. They've used it for all sorts of surgical equipment, and of course Apple is going to be using it apparently in an iPhone. Now, in case you're getting your hopes up and thinking that actually this could be a really cool way to make a metal frame that doesn't ever destroy or get scratched or bent, it could be the most indestructible iPhone ever made. But no, what Apple's going to be doing with the liquid metal is making the logo at the back of the iPhone. And it kind of made me smile, this story, and it's because this is typical Apple, paying so much attention to such a small part of the problem. In fact, even if it's a problem, now we might have an Apple logo on the back of the iPhone that won't scratch and is very shiny and will never get destroyed. Another really cool leak this week was the Moto 360. Now, for ages we've been looking at it thinking, that looks like the coolest smartwatch ever made. It's got a round face, it looks really classic, it's got a really nice metal bezel around the outside and also really nice leather straps or metal straps. But we've never really known how it was going to be charged because there was an absence of any sort of ports or connections on the body. And it seems that our suspicions have been confirmed that it's going to be wirelessly chargeable. And we saw an image earlier this week that showed it actually sitting in a dock. And once more we kind of left thinking, I wish that little segment in the frame wasn't there. And this portion is where things like the ambient light sensor and the light distributing panel digitizer thing is all sitting. And they need it there because it's not possible to have a display on anything without having the compatible drivers and the flex sitting somewhere in the frame. So that's a sad thing, but at least we know now it's a wirelessly chargeable watch. Let's just hope you don't have to charge it every day. Anyway, I've been Cam. I'm at PhoneDog_Cam on Twitter. You can ask me any questions you want, and I will see you again soon. You just caught me using the Force with my lightsaber lolly. I guess you call these popsicles in the States. I don't really know. I'm going to eat the Force. And now I'm going to eat the Force. Ah, Force makes my teeth hurt.